Hi, everybody. I am Jen Johnson, and you are watching Thought by Thought Healing. So before we get started, first things first, subscribe to my channel, and then if this video is helpful or you like it, hit that button at the end. But today, I want to talk about the fact that I had a stomachache this morning. You're probably wondering, okay, why? So, in years past, if I had a stomachache, I definitely would have been like, well, maybe I ate something that was bad, or maybe I have a food sensitivity, maybe there's something wrong with my stomach lining. This stomachache has been here for 2 weeks. What's this about? But today, coincidentally, not so coincidentally, I was actually writing this episode and had a stomachache. And I stopped and really thought about it and realized that ironically, the very thing that I am writing about for today is the very thing that I was doing. And so I was able to adjust how I was approaching today. And so the question that I'm actually answering is, do I have to change my life in order to heal? And in general, the answer to that is no. There are exceptions to that rule, always. But in general, the answer is not getting rid of stress in your life. The answer is changing how you show up. It is showing up differently. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about what that means and some examples in my own life that maybe will be helpful for you. So today, the way I was showing up was in distress and a lot of subconscious thoughts. They were not conscious thoughts. They were my subconscious that was residing in my stomach of these feelings of inferiority or insecurity. What am I doing? Will people listen? Will this help? And all those subconscious distressing thoughts was how I was showing up. I was showing up to this episode with these fears and insecurities. And that manifested in a stomachache. And as I sat there and decided, okay, let's practice our own preaching. Let's use the medicine we're talking about here and approach this and show up differently. And so then I was able to alter how I was showing up and realize that I am very passionate about what I am doing. I love this. I know that it is helping people. And I know more than anything that God has called me to do this. And that is the way that I need to show up when I do these episodes. And so showing up really matters because our brains play out into our bodies through our physiology. And if you're new to my channel, then you might want to go back and watch some other ones or shoot me an email because it is really very important to understand what causes chronic pain and how the brain is playing into that and causing truly real symptoms in your body. But that means that it is our brain that we're targeting. And that means that the way that we show up to the situations that we have in life really matter. So a couple examples of that is this channel. If you had told me a year and a half ago that I was going to be on YouTube, putting myself out there in this way, I would have absolutely laughed in your face because I was showing up to life in a way that was that I wouldn't have recognized it. In fact, if you had, oh my gosh, I just remembered that I had an acquaintance tell me that he felt like I was running kind of in this fear-based mentality. And I was so angry with him for saying that because I did not believe he was accurate. And it's humbling to admit that he was right. I was operating in life in this subconscious, fearful way that was playing out in my pain in many, many, many different ways. And so if you had told me back then that I was going to be doing this, I would have laughed. And yet here I am. And it's really interesting because I can show up to this channel, to this video in two different ways every time. And I have a choice. It is very vulnerable to get on here and talk about my faith in a way that is so open in the type of, I'm going to just say culture that we live in, especially in Seattle, Western Washington. It is not popular to be sending the message that I'm sending. And so I have to show up to that part of me with confidence instead of fear and insecurity. I've been basically talking about fear of judgment. In a broad way. I'm using this example, but the way in which I operated in life in fear of judgment for my beliefs can affect the way that you show up does affect your physiology. So we're talking about my fear of being on here talking about my faith. I'm also talking about something that is counter traditional medicine and stretches people's beliefs about pain, and that is open to judgment also. So I have to be prepared to be assured in what I know scientifically, so that because of the way that I am showing up, if I am judged, I am still safe and I am still okay. I'm grounded in what I know and what I believe, both in the science and my faith end of this. And also just the fact that I'm showing up doing something that I have weaknesses in, and I'm putting it out here. I'm telling you all this stuff just because it is about how I approach it that makes this a safe space. If I was operating in life and showing up to this in the fears and insecurities and doubts that I used to have in many areas of my life, then this would be a place that would actually be causing me pain. But instead, I'm able to show up differently. Another example of something about showing up differently is while I was healing, I had a person at my work that challenged my brain, I'll just say. It stressed me out. And so as I was healing, I learned to prepare myself that I could show up differently. I could show up with boundaries, and I could show up with the ability to not have to take on any manipulation or any even any stress over this person's just quirks. They weren't things that were wrong with this person. They just rubbed me wrong. And so I got to choose to prepare myself to show up different, that it was okay for this person to be who they were, and for me to not have to take it on. I could show up and be patient. I could show up and be loving. I could show up and be grounded. I could show up and not be manipulated. I could show up and have boundaries. So it is the way that we show up to the stress that's in our life. I did not need to get rid of this person. I did not need to change this person. I needed to show up differently in who I am in God. I get to claim who He says that I am. I get to claim the fruits of the Spirit that He gives me. I get to claim that He did not give me a spirit of fear, but He gave me a spirit of love and power and of sound mind or calm mind, and show up there in a different way. In my day job, I'm an interpreter for the deaf and hard hearing, and I did a graduation the other day that was in front of thousands of people, and the old me would have been insecure and fearful of the mistakes that I would have made on stage. And this year, I got to approach that differently and having a different mindset of I have an opportunity to love on my client. And I have an opportunity. Maybe I will do great. What if I do a good job? What if this is amazing? That is the type of showing up that can be done in a different way. This morning, another example is that I paid for some private dance lessons. I'm a West Coast swing dancer. I love it. It's the place where I am most at ease and have joy and just, I don't know, this expression of happiness in my life. And in years past, competition, we do competition. So I was in beginner level competition for many years. It's very hard to get out. And I had a lot of fear around failure in competition. And after you compete, oftentimes what dancers do is you will watch a video of your competition and you will rip yourself apart. You will find everything about that dance that didn't look good and you didn't do well. And it became a place for me of discouraging thought and ripping myself down and not encouraging myself. And so I decided, as I was able to reintroduce dance back into my life as I was healing, that I wanted to approach it differently. And now I show up to dance, including this morning with my dance lesson, with an attitude of let's talk about what I'm good at and how to use what I am good at to work on what needs and can use some improvement. And I was so thankful. The instructor that I hired is one of my best friend's fiancés. And so I was able to just say to him, hey, look, I've learned how the brain is wired, and I don't want to keep talking about what I suck at. I actually want to talk about what I'm good at and use that to grow this other thing. And I am choosing my language really carefully both in talking to you and when I was explaining to him what I wanted out of my lesson, because it matters how I show up. Normally, when I would take a lesson like that, or any opportunity where I am learning, because anytime we're learning, it's based in something that we don't know yet. There's kind of that, there's a little bit of fear in there of like, will I grasp it? Will I get it? Will I be able to do this thing? And instead showing up being like, hey, I've got these skills and I'm going to get better in this area, and this is exciting. And I will say that today was probably the most fun I've ever had in a lesson, because I didn't leave the lesson just feeling like I suck. I left going, I have hope that I can get better in these areas, and knowing also what my strengths are. And he helped me to kind of pay attention to that too. So that was helpful. So these are just some of the ways that you can choose to show up differently to your daily life, whether it's the mundane things in life like your work and the people, or whether it's taking on new exciting ventures, or just in like how you treat yourself in the things that we get to experience and grow in life, and choosing to kind of implement that patience and that kindness and that love and that joy and that power and confidence that we can claim. And so show up differently. I encourage you this week just to find one area, start to pay attention to those subconscious. How are you showing up places? What are the subconscious feelings and thoughts and emotions that are a little bit murky and that you're suppressing, and bring them to light and acknowledge how you are in these spaces. And then decide, how do you want to be, and what can you choose instead, and looking at alternative ways to show up. Again, we don't need to get rid of the stress in our life. Stress is pretty much change and things that we have to deal with, and we can choose to show up empowered, or we can choose to show up in fear and kind of this prediction of failure. And so show up different this week. Don't try to get rid of things, just show up a different you, and see how that plays out for you, both in your pain and just mentally. When I work with clients, I always say you will start to heal emotionally, mentally, and spiritually before you will see these physical changes. So it does take a while, but it does feel good. Even as we're making these tiny steps forward, we do feel better holistically. So thanks for watching, you guys. Again, this is Thought by Thought Healing. Subscribe and like this, and pass it along. All right. Thanks. See you guys later. Bye.